Good afternoon, David. Thanks for taking this call from Radio Italia Uno, Adelaide.
Good afternoon, Antonio. I'm delighted to. Thank you.
Very good. So I explained just a little bit about your background earlier. Said you've been a company director, CEO, policy advisor in Brisbane, in Queensland. So, and you are on air now from Brisbane. So we'll talk a bit about your professional background and your Italianness a bit later on. So
certainly,
let's see this story about you being a CEO, often in innovation areas. How have you been attracted to this sector?
I guess my university studies in mathematics and computing science, and then I guess in the late 70s, early 80s, computing was really taking off, and I saw that, as the future, I guess. I don't think I was particularly original. A lot of people saw that, and I moved into that area. And then later in life, when I hopefully got a bit wiser and a bit more money to invest, I decided to invest in startups and technology innovations generally. So it's been very interesting and quite fortunate life that I've had in that respect.
Oh, it's good, interesting background, a long-term interest. I've had a chat with a fellow Queenslander, Mario Pennisi.
Yeah, I know Mario.
Oh, you know Mario. Oh, that's cool. That's good. That was
Life Sciences Australia, isn't it?
Correct. Yes, and he's had also a long-term interest in the interface between technology, science, and markets, and bringing new inventions to market, which is very, very important. It's your area of IT has been especially interesting. So you've been involved in that, engineering, IT, but also in the area of research. How do you manage to connect those two? Because I've got a PhD myself. I've worked in universities, and it's not always easy to connect the two.
I had the most amazing opportunity to be the CEO of a cooperative research centre, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and it was in the field of technology. So it was that wonderful opportunity to see basic research, applied research, and then commercialise it in the context of cooperative research centres. And I'd be the first to admit that when I started in the role, even though I'd been at university and I'd been involved in student politics and the academic board, and in fact, even on the university senate, I didn't really understand research. And so one of the great advantages of employing, at one stage, we had over 50 postdocs working for us. It was the first time in my life I was only the 7th largest ego in an organisation. So, but I learned a lot. It was certainly one of the best experiences of my life, and I worked there for 9 years, and I enjoyed every moment of it. But it then seeded my interest in startups, because it happened during the .com boom. So I very much involved in that aspect of it as well. So that's how I combined them. It was very fortuitous.
Okay, and you said you didn't know really the world of research. How is it different from the business world or world of startups?
Well, firstly, you'd be familiar with peer review, which is really just a brutal license to criticise your colleagues, as far as I'm concerned. But it produces excellence. Whether it's because of the fear of not producing excellent work, or through, more often than not, the constructive criticism of your colleagues and your peers, the process of reviews for journals and conferences, all this thing. So that learning and understanding that deeply really gave me a great appreciation of the first, of the importance of science, but secondly, of the opportunity that then presented to go into the commercial world, because you sort of knew that your research was sound.
Yep.
The real challenge was whether your business idea was going to work. So, and quite frankly, often we had solutions looking for problems, and that's one of the sort of traps of research in an applied field. So yeah, and the business world, frankly, I don't find business very challenging.
Okay.
You make money. It's sadly, notwithstanding the triple bottom line and brand and all the issues that people talk about, improved. At the end of the day, if you increase your sales and reduce your expenses, and hopefully do both, then you'll do. I fortunately grew up in a business family, and so I had a great appreciation of customer focus, and in an Italian delicatessen, which I'm sure a little bit about later. But
like my parents did.
Okay, yeah. So that really that was really a great foundation for my work in business, and don't get me wrong, it's still very challenging, and all sorts of things can happen in business which are unexpected. But at the end of the day, I'm drawn to the new, the exciting, the innovative, and the challenging more than just satisfying shareholders.
Yes, and creating new knowledge, yes, through the research. Now we have to have a little break for some messages from our sponsors. We'll come back to chat in a minute. So you've been involved in some research environments. I also see you have been involved in the Innovation Council for Queensland, Translink, the
Translink, yes,
Translink,
public
authority, and also I said you've been an advisor to politicians, to the Premier of Queensland. So what's that environment like?
It's organised chaos.
Yes.
I was firstly a policy advisor to Wayne Goss, the Premier of Queensland, 89 to 95, and then
did you overlap with Kevin Rudd in those days?
Yes, that's right. I worked with Kevin.
And that's okay.
I actually took over from Kevin as Chief of Staff to Wayne. So that seems so long ago now. From there, I went back to working in the private sector, working in the CRC, working for a software development company, a worldwide company, and also contributing by being on, advisory boards like the Queensland Innovation Council. I was actually a company director of Translink. And ironically, I was asked to be on that board to represent the interests of people with disability. Because at the time, I was the CEO of Endeavour Foundation, which is one of the largest providers of disability services in Australia, sort of revenues north of 300 million. And I was asked by the then Minister for Transport, Annastacia Palaszczuk, and who I knew through my contacts. And then subsequently in 2017, she invited me to become her Chief of Staff. So I've been Chief of Staff to 2 premiers in Queensland. Some would unkindly suggest I learnt nothing by going back into that role, because it's a pretty tough world, but just wonderfully enjoyable. The Premier, what you see is what you get. Thoroughly decent person. Not quite sure why she's in politics. She's far too nice for the game, but she was great to work for, great person. Her one flaw was she didn't swear at all, not a single word. She frowned on anyone else who swore around her. So we all had to sharpen up our act. So that was one sort of life experience I got from her. But yeah, so lots of policy, lots of politics at times, obviously, but a real opportunity to contribute to public life. I think once the Catholics get hold of you, you have that time commitment to helping others, and that takes form in public life sometimes.
Okay, yes. Well, and the job of premiers has been especially difficult and important in the last year and a bit, and is extremely important right now because of the pandemic.
It's a tough job. I think, ironically, people's opinion of politicians, particularly premiers, is going up because, you know, they realise just how tough and rotten a set of circumstances it is, and yet, you know, none of them come on and cry or whinge or complain or break down. They just keep going, and I think it's wonderful, actually, because when you work in that game, you just know how hard they all work, and you know how committed they are to helping others. So if there is one positive to come from this pandemic, then that's possibly it. Yeah.
Yes, appreciation of the work of the premiers and the state government. Now, okay, time is going on. Let's pass to understanding where does his name Barbagallo come from? When I saw it initially, I thought it would be from the north of Italy. Is that correct?
No. From Sicily. From Sicily. In the foothills of Mount Etna.
Dove Sicily. Okay.
Yeah. My grandfather was born in a village called Sant'Alfio. So you would be familiar of the Feast of Three Saints, the festival that's held in Silkwood in far north Queensland, the Feast of Three Saints. No? Well, it's a big Sicilian tradition. You must not be Sicilian, Antonio.
No. Kiss on it. Who are the three saints?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. Saint Alfio is one of them.
Yeah, Alfio is very Sicilian. Very Sicilian.
Yeah, I used to know, but I've forgotten. I'm sorry. Yeah, so the Feast of Three Saints, whom you prayed to ensure the lava didn't come down and take out your village, I guess.
Yes, that's right. Okay, and have you been to that area? Have you been to it?
Absolutely. I've travelled back to Sicily and Italy probably on 20 occasions. I've stayed in Sicily for 3-month periods, and just fabulous, just fabulous.
Okay, and when you're there, how do you communicate with the people?
Initially in broken Italian, and then as the days wear on and I go to the markets every day, some of that Sicilian I overheard as a child starts to come back. But certainly my Italian improves every time I'm there for a length of time, because I was listening to your ads before, and obviously quite a few of those people are obviously Australian Italian, but some of them were real Italians because they spoke 20 faster.
Yes. Well, interesting.
And I couldn't
understand. Well, a few weeks ago, I had an interview with a gentleman called Ross Pelligra, who is a property developer in Melbourne, and he comes from a Sicilian background. And we were chatting a nice combination of English, Italian, and the occasional Sicilian word, and it was I think just lovely. And in fact, the next guest is a linguist, a gentleman called Gilad Zuckerman. But he's an Italian citizen, in fact, Jewish Italian. And his specialty is reviving lost languages. He's been doing that with Aboriginal languages here in South Australia. Okay, so from Sicily, Sant'Alfio. Oh, and you said your grandparents came out from Italy. So your parents were born here?
Yes, yes.
And you talked about a delicatessen.
Yes, Mum's father started delivering Italian produce through horse and cart.
Okay.
And then he established a shop front. And ironically, I was just home last week. Mum turned 93 on Tuesday.
Oh, good.
And yeah, she's wonderful. And it's the 100th anniversary of the opening of the delicatessen in 2 years' time. Yes. So it's been continuous delicatessen for almost 100 years. No longer in our immediate family, but with friends of the family. So yeah, Dad did go back to live in Sicily during the Depression. So for whatever reason, his father and mother went back to Sicily for 4 or 5 years during the Depression, and so he has a bit of that. He passed away a few years ago, unfortunately, but yeah. So very much second generation, I guess, in a sense. I have 6 brothers and sisters, so there's 7 of us. Too.
Good, wow. So lo so Barbagallo. Ok, nome siciliano, quindi non del Nord Italia. Bene. Okay, well, I have to move on. I haven't warned you about this, but is there a song or a singer, Italian song or singer that's particularly interesting to you that we would want to play?
Obviously, opera. Every Sunday morning, our father would drive us to church and he would sing opera.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. And one way or another, it creeped into my mind. And so, whether it's the 3 tenors, I'm certainly not I don't understand much or know much, but I do quite like, the classic operas, whether it's, Traviata or whatever. They're all, the singing of those, the arias and the tenors are just quite extraordinary.
Okay, well, let's try Luciano Pavarotti con Libbiam dai lieti calici. And I'll say thank you to David for having taken this call and giving us your experiences and your Italian background.
Thank you very much. Very enjoyable. Thank you, Antonio.